A contender adding Kyle Lowry, that moves you into a different tier. It just does. All right, I want to get to some of these names that you have mentioned because the next thing that we are really going to spend a lot of time on in the coming weeks is the trade deadline and who's going to get moved and who's not going to get moved. I'm going to go through these names one by one. One of them that you mentioned that stood out to me is the Clippers' desire to get Kyle Lowry if they could. That would clearly be a great fit. It would reunite him with Kawhi Leonard. There are other teams that have been connected with Lowry over the course of the past couple of months. The big question is Toronto, gonna move Kyle Lowry? Is this are they going to move into the Fred VanVleet, Norm Powell, OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, era where there's like this transition to whatever the new look Raptors are going to be, especially after the other veterans left in the offseason, both Ibaka and Marc Gasol. Do you think, what is chances Kyle Lowry is a Raptor, late March, in your opinion?
Probably pretty good.
You think so?
Yeah, probably pretty good. I mean, for a number of reasons. He's Kyle Lowry.
Yep.
He's been with the franchise for a long time, and the Raptors still have a good team, even if they don't have championship aspirations quite as much. Secondly, it's a tough contract to deal, making around $30 million. There's not a lot of teams that need a point guard, so you have those factors at play there. And Kyle Lowry himself, he posted on Instagram today, the lies people tell in media are amazing. Don't put things out when they ain't come from me. And he put that on his Instagram story, responding to all the hoopla and all the noise the past couple of weeks about, whether he'll get traded or not.
Right.
And so for Lowry, for the team, for the fact there might be other interests, there's a lot of factors working against a Lowry trade. That doesn't change the fact that there's some existing interest from other teams like the Sixers or the Clippers and whoever else might want a point guard. I'm not sure if a deal will end up getting made, Chris.
Because he could really move the needle, Kev.
Big time.
You know what I mean? For any of those teams. For any of those teams that you mentioned, whether it's the Heat or it's Philly or it's the Clippers or whoever, like a contender adding Kyle Lowry, that moves you into a different tier. It just does. Because Kyle Lowry is still a big-time player, and you want that kind of guy, in your foxhole when it comes playoff time, with what we saw. I mean, he helped win the Raptors that championship with his performance on the road where he was, he was the best player on the floor, on a floor that included, Steph Curry. So this guy is, this guy could really, he could change the team's fortunes and their ceiling.
Oh, big time, man. I mean, he's a winner. Man. Kyle Lowry is a winner. And that's why for sort of like the inverse here, like with you seeing Marc Gasol leave to Toronto to go win his first championship, if Lowry were to be traded, it would be to a contending team. And hopefully for Raptors fans, it would be fun and, to see him go win his second championship, whether it's with Philly or whether it's with LA or whoever it might be, because he can still contribute at that level. But we'll see what happens, though, man.
Like we learned on the DeMar thing. We'll see. Masai's going to do what's best for that franchise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it just depends on the return. If you get a couple teams bidding against each other, who knows? You may end up getting a lot more in return for Lowry because a team looks at it and say, if we get Kyle Lowry, we can win the title. If somebody feels like that, then that's when all bets are off. People are willing to give up much more than you would think they're willing to give up if they feel like we're going to go all in and win, and we think we can win the title if we get this guy. So if future assets be damned, we think we can win the title. And then you got to, obviously, if you give up a lot, you got to go do it. But, I could see that happening.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. It's unclear if he'll get dealt, but undoubtedly there's interest. Which
the reason I brought him up first is because he's the biggest name of the guys that you mentioned, but you do mention some others in the mix, and one of those is Victor Oladipo and interest from the Golden State Warriors in Victor Oladipo. Look, he has not been good for Houston, since he went there. He is on the cusp of, it's going to be contract time for him sooner than later. He didn't re-up with Houston, and so he's not for long there. So you'd imagine he is one that will for sure be moved. I was surprised that that's what the Warriors would want to augment their team with. That's what they, you know what I mean? Like just with the whole fit with Curry and Oubre and Wiggins and kind of what they've got already. I was a little surprised that they liked Oladipo so much in that mix.
You can Venmo me the money owed at Kevin O'Connor NBA, Chris, for Andrew Wiggins still being on the Golden State Warriors after
grief.
1 year.
He made it through the weekend. It was supposed to be the trade deadline. It's not fair.
Like I said, we can move the date. We can move the date.
No, you said we could. We said we could move the date if we double or nothing. That's what you said in the last pod. That's not right. This whole season got screwed up, and Klay Thompson got hurt. Ruined my Wiggins bet. Just ruined it. There's no way that dude's still on the Warriors if Klay Thompson's there. And why would they want Oladipo? They just want him for
all right. So with
the
Oladipo,
rest of this year. They got Klay Thompson coming back, right?
Well, maybe you can convince him to stay.
Yeah, but then you got Curry, Klay Thompson, and Oladipo.
But look, here's the thing, Chris. I even said this in the report. Interest in Victor Oladipo, to me, when I hear that, when I talk to people around the league and I hear that and think, okay, so Victor Oladipo, clearly they're thinking about other playmakers, finding other guys who can handle the ball on their team, because other wings, because they don't have a lot of wing depth. They don't have a lot of guard depth. And when Klay Thompson comes back, you don't know what you're going to get. It's just the reality of the situation. You don't know what version of Klay Thompson you're going to get, especially on the defensive end of the court. He's going to be able to shoot no matter what. Like, he can shoot sitting down. He can shoot, blindfolded. It doesn't matter. But the defensive aspect you don't know about. And that's where Victor Oladipo, I look at him and it's like, oh, they're missing that Iguodala Livingston type. That guy who handles the ball and facilitates for the star scorers. Maybe Oladipo could fit in that role. So maybe they don't get Victor Oladipo. They probably won't get him. But the fact they're thinking about that shows the line of logic that the Golden State front office is following here with what the team needs to reload when Klay returns next season. And Oladipo types make a lot of sense to me, whether it's him or whether it's somebody else, because that's what's missing from that team is wing depth and another ball handling presence who can do the Livingston, Iguodala type of thing. And Oladipo makes sense there.
Yeah, the only reason I say it doesn't make sense is because we know what he just turned down from Houston. I mean, you can't pay Curry, Thompson, Draymond, and what he obviously wants. He didn't turn down that contract from Houston because he thought he was going to get less, by hitting the market. And so he fancies himself as a guy that's going to get another huge contract, I think. And Golden State can't give him another huge contract.
Well, how about this, Chris? I've not heard a single thing about Wiggins trades, not a peep from anybody. But theoretically, what if he gave up
You
Wiggins?
need this to happen before you need this. You needed the clock to run out. You needed the clock to run out bad.
But theoretically, Chris,
no, that's BS.
Well, that's the other way.
I may hold
off
on that Venmo because if he's gone from the trade deadline, we're gonna have the listeners vote on should it be the deadline or the date. Because I said he wouldn't make it through the next year. That is hilarious. I didn't know the season was going to start late. Yeah. Well, how many years he got left on his contract?
I think 3.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'd do that.
I know you would, Chris.
I'd do that.
Save your money.
That would be hilarious.
Wiggins becomes a free agent in 2023. So 2 more seasons.
Yeah, so you're on you've got that kind of money on the books anyway.
Yeah.
Right? You would have to move off of Wiggins if you wanted to keep Oladipo going forward. And then you get to some lesser names that are in there. Evan Fournier was a name that you mentioned, and Terrence Ross. That's 2 Orlando guys. If the idea is that it's going to be too big of a cost for anybody to throw together something that would entice Orlando to move Vucevic, But these ancillary players like a Ross, like a Fournier, that could be
even
in the rotation for
Khem
good
Birch.
teams.
Khem Birch too.
Khem Birch?
Another veteran who's going to be a free agent in a couple months. That's received some interest, but like it's kind of funny. Orlando has not been good, but they have a lot of players that teams want.
Yeah, I thought they were going to do something in the offseason. They before the season started. I really did.
Yeah,
because it felt like they had a bunch of young guys. Nothing really fit perfectly, but then you decide which ones are we committing to. They obviously committed to Gordon. And that has not, he hasn't lived up to the billing. Aaron Gordon hasn't.
I still like Aaron Gordon a lot. I
know, him. But that has not worked out like you wanted it to if you're Orlando. Jonathan Isaac's hurt, right? Mo Bamba doesn't play. And then you've got Vucevic, who's your best player, who plays center, which is the same as Bamba and this other guy who you've had that's been good in Khem Birch. You drafted, Cole Anthony. And you got some of
Fultz, and he got hurt.
Yeah, and he got hurt, and so it's all kind of they do have players, and obviously with the veteran guys, you could see Evan Fournier could play in a rotation on a good team. Same with Terrence Ross.
Yeah,
and so you think those are the two most likely if they're going to move somebody, and those guys are both on fine contracts that aren't long out.
I mean, I would say like a guy that's easiest to deal is Khem Birch. So he'd be most likely, even though he wasn't mentioned in the story. But Terrence Ross and Evan Fournier, as you just said, are easier to deal, and they can fit into a lot of different teams with their scoring ability. Kind of a spark plug role that could be nice on a contender or nice on any team for that matter. It's nice in Orlando. Those guys aren't bad players.
Well, it was interesting for you to mention, for one of those guys, the Hornets, because that means they're a buyer. And you had mentioned this in the past that. Like Charlotte might be a team that tries to get even better as they head down this stretch run. That like they look at this now and they're, where can we get in this playoff seeding? But I was fascinated by that because they got a gang of shooting guards there. They got a lot of guys, and Monk's been really good, who you mentioned. So why would they want another shooting guard in Charlotte just because of the injuries? Because guys have gotten banged up.
I mean, not having Devontae Graham does hurt their guard rotation.
Does it hurt though?
Yeah. I mean,
does it?
When you have Malik
it's
Monk,
opened up the door for Malik Monk.
Well, when you have Malik Monk playing at the level that he is, that guy's so fun to watch, Chris, isn't he? I love Malik Monk.
Yes. He's been fantastic this year. He's also in a contract year. Yeah. So watch out. You never know.